Hello and welcome. This is McGoobage. My name is Andy and this is a fairly new YouTube channel. For those of you that have seen my channel before, you would have seen that I did 2 playthrough series last season and got sacked twice in non-league. I'm useless with tactics. The thing is, I know there are plenty of people out there that also are. You're a bit like me, you struggle. So, I've been on the community forums, I've been around different websites, and I'm going to put together a tactical experiment. Now this experiment will be 4 of the most popular tactics tested with every single Premier League team, starting with the top 6 this week and then moving forward to the rest of the Premier League, just to see how effective they actually are. Now there are 2 types of people that play Football Manager, in my view. It's those that have the time to create and develop their own tactics, and there are those that don't have the time, that would love to have the time to develop their own tactics but need to play the game for an hour or a couple of hours a day or a couple of hours a week. They just want to download a popular one and give it a whirl. Hopefully these videos will give you a bit of a guide as to what tactics work with each team to help get me started. Let's get straight into it. Tactic number 1 is by Nap, who's a popular poster on the forums, the SI community forums, and it's the 4-2-3-1 Beowulf. There's plenty of different versions on here. He tests I think on FM Touch and things like that. It's the Griffin version that we're going to be using. That is tactic number 1. That's a 4-2-3-1 formation. I'll go into it when we get into the game, but that's tactic number 1. Tactic number 2 is by Fuss, Minimal Fuss, Fastidious I should say. Again, a regular poster. He's a regular poster on this particular forum, and I'm using the stable version 2. So all the links to the tactics will be in the description. Minimal Fuss, Fastidious, version 2, the 4-1-2-2-1 formation. Tactic number 3 is by Rossler, who is another brilliant technician, and he's a regular poster on the forums. His is the Steadfast, a flat 4-1-4-1 formation. Very, very popular, and again he has a lot of success with his tactics. This will be implemented as tactic number 3. Tactic number 4 will be Jamie's 4-2-3-1 attacking Catenaccio with set pieces. This is a very popular tactic on his Twitch channel, and this is going to be tactic number 4. So here we go with Liverpool. This is tactic number 1. Now tactic number 1 is the Nap Beowulf tactic, as we all know if you've seen my other 2 videos so far. It's the tiki-taka attacking style tactic. In possession, you're slightly shorter passing to space, play out of defence with low crosses, run at defence, work the ball into the box, overlap on both sides with a slightly lower tempo. In transition, you take short kicks, you distribute to your fullbacks, you counter, and you counter press, and out of possession, defend narrower, much higher defensive line, a higher line of engagement, extremely urgent, prevent the short goalkeeper distribution, you get stuck in, use tighter marking and use of the offside trap. Now again, if you've not seen my videos before, responsibility wise, the staff are in charge of everything. The staff are doing everything, and my light's just gone out, I don't know why. They're in charge of everything here, so I'm literally going to be going on holiday for a whole season and then see how the game plays out with the tactic that we're using. So if we go to ability wise, I'm picking the best players based on the game's rating. So the ability, I'm trying to fit all the best players in, the best players in each of their own positions. So in this particular tactic, wrong screen, Becker's in goal. He's a defensive goalkeeper with Robertson and Alexander-Arnold as the wing backs on attack, Matip and Van Dijk the defenders, the ball playing defenders, Henderson and Keita. Henderson's deep line playmaker on support and Keita's box to box support. 2 inside forwards, Salah and Mane on support. Adam Lallana as the attacking midfielder, as he's rated the highest, with Roberto Firminho as the attacking forward. Let's see what happens. So here we go. We're at the end of the season and Liverpool won the Premier League. They won it from Arsenal 2nd, Man City 3rd, Tottenham 4th, Man United 5th, Chelsea 6th and Watford 7th. Let's have a look at the schedule. So they started the Premier League with a 4-0 home win against Man United in the Premier League, which was good. Look at this. Huddersfield at home 9-0. They won their first Champions League game against Roma, lost the Premier League against Southampton away, but then beat them at home in the EFL Cup. This is a strange one. They lost 6-4 away at Newcastle. Won the next Champions League game. A bit of an unbeaten run here, including wins against Fulham, against Chelsea in the Premier League. Beat Bayern Munich 3-0 in the Champions League. Palace in the Premier League. Light's gone out again. Beat Arsenal on penalties in the EFL Cup. Drew with Bayern in the Champions League. Lost to Man City. Beat Arsenal in the Premier League. Beat Roma in the Champions League. And then look at this run. From the 1st of December, an unbeaten run until the 30th of March. And that unbeaten run, some big games in here. Drew with Galatasaray. Okay, so they won the EFL Cup quarter-final, 2-0 against Swansea. Drew with Man United in the Premier League, but then beat Tottenham 4-2. Big win against Burnley, 4-0. Beat Man United in the FA Cup third round. Brighton away in the EFL Cup semi-final. And then at home to go through to the final. Wolves 5-1 in the Premier League. Impressive results. Beat Norwich 5-0 in the FA Cup fourth round. Big wins against Southampton, against Newcastle. Beat Bolton 3-2 in the FA Cup fifth round away. Drew with Napoli in the first knockout round of the Champions League away. Won the EFL Cup final against Watford and then beat Chelsea in the Premier League. Big win against Fulham away, 6-0. Watford in the Premier League. Beat Napoli in the Champions League to go through to the second round. Beat Birmingham in the FA Cup sixth round. So that was a run of games, an unbeaten run that spanned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. 29 game unbeaten run. Very impressive. They lost to Arsenal in the Premier League away. 5-2 unfortunately. Beat Man City the next round of the Champions League and Sheffield United in the FA Cup semi-final. Drew away with Man City to go through in the Champions League. Big win against rivals Everton away, 5-2. Beat Bournemouth, beat Brighton and beat Cardiff. Champions League semi-final, beat Roma at home 4-1. Lost the away leg 2-1, but on aggregate they're through. Big win against West Ham in the Premier League, against Tottenham. They won the FA Cup final, beating Arsenal 5-2, but lost the Champions League final. So it's a domestic treble for Liverpool. Could have been a quadruple, but they lost to Man United. It's impressive tactic for this particular side. Okay, average ratings. Firminho with a 7.49, followed by Van Dijk 7.46, Salah 7.38, Alexander-Arnold 7.34 and Matip 7.34. Goals, look at this. Roberto Firmino, 46 goals from 57 games and 12 assists. Outstanding. Mane and Salah 22 and 23 goals. Mane had 12 assists and Salah had 19. And then we're looking down Van Dijk and Fabinho with 11 each. Roberto Firmino, look at that, 46 from 47. So that's tactic number one, the domestic treble for Liverpool. Could have been a quadruple, but they lost in the final. But very impressive from tactic number one. So here we go. This is tactic number two. And of course, it's minimal fusses, fastidious. This is a 4-1-4-1 wide formation. It's a positive mentality. And in possession, shorter passing, play out of defence, work the ball into the box with a lower tempo. Frequently waste time. In transition, you roll it out, you distribute to the fullbacks, you counter and you counter press. And out of possession, a higher defensive line, prevent the short goalkeeper distribution and use of the offside trap. And it's noticeable, as you can see, out of the four tactics, this is the tactic with the least instruction. So you've got a sweeper keeper in goal in Becker on defend, two wing backs on support, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold. Your two centre backs are on defend, Van Dijk and Matip. Jordan Henderson's a defensive midfielder on defend. Fabinho's box-to-box support. Keita as Mazzala as attack, with the two inside forwards, Mane and Salah. Firminho as a deep line forward on attack this time. Let's see how this one plays out. So, tactic number 2. Liverpool are champions again, this time with a bigger margin. 29 wins from 38 games and only 2 defeats. Chelsea was 2nd, Tottenham were 3rd, Man City 4th, Arsenal 5th, Man United 6th and Leicester 7th. Let's have a look at the schedule. So, Premier League, they started off with a draw against Man United. Then went on a little unbeaten run, including beating Young Boys in the Champions League 5-1. Lost the EFL Cup on penalties in the 3rd round. Big win against Lokomotiv Moscow in the Champions League, 7-0 away. The first defeat in the Premier League was against Chelsea away, 1-0. Beat Porto 1-0 in the Champions League. Big win away at Watford, 4-0. Lost to Porto away in the Champions League, but look at this. Beat Man City 6-1 away in the Premier League. Drew with Arsenal in the Premier League and Young Boys in the Champions League. A couple of other draws. Brighton and local rivals Everton in the Premier League. Beat Lokomotiv Moscow 2-0. Beat Man United in the Premier League. Drew with Spurs in the Premier League. FA Cup 3rd round, they beat Millwall. An unbeaten run of 9 games, which included a draw with Bayern Munich, 2-2. Beating Hull, we said FA Cup 4th round. Huddersfield, beat Huddersfield and Southampton in the Premier League. Beat Fulham in the Premier League. FA Cup 5th round, they drew the first leg with Watford and then lost the away games. That's both domestic cups they're out of. Okay, moving into March now. They beat Crystal Palace, they beat Bayern in the Champions League. First knockout round. Beat Arsenal in the Premier League. Lost to Man City at home in the Premier League, which is disappointing. Brighton beat them in the Premier League, lost away at Dortmund in the quarter-final first leg, then beat Everton, local rivals away 4-0, beat Dortmund in the Champions League, but it wasn't enough. Beat Bournemouth, beat Chelsea, beat Cardiff, drew with West Ham in the final game of the season. They beat Tottenham. So it was a Premier League victory, but that was the only success in the season. Let's have a look at the player stats. So, average ratings, 7.45 Alexander-Arnold, Matip 7.38, Robertson and Van Dijk. Next best was Firminho, so it's noticeable that the defenders come out on top. Goals wide, not so good. Firminho 22 from 52 games, Firminho 19 from 53, Mane 12 and Salah only 7 from 46. So, it wasn't really, despite the Premier League win by 16 points, players didn't really perform as they did in the other tactic. But it was still a successful one, and that was tactic number 2. So here we go, this is tactic number 3, and this is Rossler Steadfast 4-1-4-1 version 2. It's an attacking tactic. Now, you play slightly shorter passing, you pass into space and play out of defence with low crosses. Run at the defence, work the ball into the box, and you focus play through the middle of the pitch. In transition, short kicks, counter press. Out of position, you defend narrower. High defensive line and line of engagement. It's extremely urgent. You prevent the short goalkeeper distribution and use of the offside trap, and it's 4-1-4-1. Now, you'll note that Mane and Salah are wide midfielders on attack, and that's because they need to fit into the team because they're strongest players. So, sweeper keeper Becker. Complete wing-backs in Robertson and Alexander-Arnold on attack. Matip and Van Dijk as the centre defenders on defend. Henderson, the half-back on defend. Firminho box-to-box and Keita, both on support. As I said, the two wide midfielders on attack, Mane and Salah, with Firminho as the false 9 support up front. Let's see how it plays out. So, tactic number 3, and Liverpool champions again. By 9 points, losing only 1 game in the season. Drawing 10 and winning 27. City was 2nd, United were 3rd, Tottenham 4th, Chelsea 5th and Arsenal 6th. So look at schedule. There's going to be some big unbeaten runs here by the looks of it. Okay, so they started off the Premier League by beating Man United at home. Then wins against Burnley, against Leicester, Wolves and Huddersfield. First Champions League game away, they beat Napoli 6-2. EFL Cup, they beat Wolves 4-0. Lost the first game in the Premier League away 2-0 to Newcastle. If you note, Firminho was sent off in 78 minutes, and then Dimitar Berbatov scored for Newcastle to wrap things up in the 94th minute. Next Champions League game, can't pronounce that team, not going to even try to. They won 7-0. Big win against Fulham. Drew in the Premier League 2-2 with Chelsea. Lost 5-1 away to PSG in the Champions League. Now let's just have a look here. It's a massive, massive unbeaten run again. So what was the last one? 19 games in tactic number 1. So tactic number 3 had 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 games. 29 game unbeaten run. Outstanding. Let's have a look at some of those results. West Ham, EFL Cup 4th round. They won away at 4-0. And again 4-0 against Watford in the Premier League. Revenge defeat against PSG by winning 2-1 in the Champions League. Beat Arsenal, Premier League 2-0. Beat Napoli at home 4-1 in the Champions League. Then some good results, including beating Everton 3-0 at home. Drew with Bournemouth in the Premier League. Beat that team I can't pronounce 6-1 away in the Champions League. Big win in the EFL Cup quarter final, beating Tottenham 4-0. Big win, a drew 3-3 in the Premier League with Man United, but then beat Tottenham 2-1. Hammered West Ham 5-0 in the Premier League. Beat Hull in the EFL Cup, in the FA Cup third round, EFL Cup semi-final, beat Chelsea, first leg 2-0. 6-0 win against Wolves, followed by beating Chelsea 4-1 to go through to the EFL Cup final. Beat Brentford in the FA Cup 4th round. Beat Ajax Champions League first knockout round 4-1 away. Fulham in the Premier League 4-0 after beating Scunthorpe 3-1 in the 5th round of the FA Cup. EFL Cup final, they lost to Arsenal unfortunately. Beat Chelsea in the Premier League 3-0. Beat Ajax in the first knockout round, second leg to go through. Drew with City in the Premier League. FA Cup 6th round, beat Peterborough 4-0. Drew with Arsenal in the Premier League. Lost the FA Cup semi-final to Wolves away, and Henderson was sent off in the first half. Drew the first Champions League quarter-final leg 1 at home with Man United 0-0. Followed by a 1-1 with Everton, but then beat United away with 2 late goals from Firminho to go through to the semi-final of the Champions League. Big win against Bournemouth in the Premier League 5-1. Champions League semi-final leg 1, they lost 4-2 away at City. At home to Man City. And then they won the away leg 2-1, but it wasn't enough, and Man City went on to the final. Finished the Premier League season with a 1-1 draw. So, 29 game unbeaten run, and Liverpool won the Premier League. They didn't do anything in the domestic competitions, but let's have a look at player ratings. Trent Alexander-Arnold 7.84 for the season over 60 games. That is massive, absolutely massive. Fabinho 7.65, Robertson 7.58, and Mane 7.42. Goals: Firmino 33 from 59 with 10 assists. Mane 25 from 56 with 9 assists. But look at this, Firmino 23 goals from 59 games and 23 assists. That is huge. So Liverpool were champions again. All 3 tactics so far, Liverpool were champions. But some impressive stats. That's tactic number 3. So here we go. This is the final tactic. Tactic number 4. The FM Scout Cantanaccio. I think that's how you say it. This is an attacking tactic. It's 4-2-3-1 wide. Plenty of instructions here. You've got in possession, short passing, passing to space, play out of defence with low crosses, work the ball into the box, but you focus play this time down both sides with a lower tempo. Distribute to fullbacks, you counter press, and out of possession the usual. You defend narrower, high defensive line and a higher line of engagement. Extremely urgent, prevent the short goalkeeper distribution. You get stuck in using tighter marking and use of the offside trap. So again, the players are picked based on the ability ratings that the game currently has. All the best players are playing. So Becker's in goal as a goalkeeper on defend, with 2 wing backs, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold on attack. 2 ball playing defenders on defend, Matip and Van Dijk. Deep line playmaker Henderson on support, with Keita as a box-to-box midfielder on support. 2 inside forwards again, Mane and Salah on support. Lallana on attack, attacking midfielder, and Firminho advanced forward on attack. Let's see how this tactic performs. So, this final tactic, Liverpool finished second. They lost the the Premier League to Arsenal. Tottenham were third, Bournemouth fourth. Chelsea fifth, Man City sixth, and Man United seventh. Schedule, let's have a look what happened. Okay, Premier League, they started off with a win against Man United, which was good. Burnley, they won 6-2, which is impressive. Leicester, they beat. Wolves, they beat 4-0. And Huddersfield, 3-0 in the Premier League. So 5 games unbeaten. They then beat Inter in the Champions League 4-0, but lost away to Southampton in the Premier League. They beat Watford in the EFL Cup third round. Beat Barcelona away in the Champions League, followed by a big 6-0 win in the Premier League against Fulham. Lost to Chelsea, Premier League. Beat Shakhtar, big win away in the Champions League. Beat Brighton in the EFL Cup fourth round. Beat Shakhtar in the Champions League, but then lost to Man City in the Premier League, to then go and beat Arsenal in the Premier League. Lost to Inter in the Champions League away. Beat Everton in the Premier League, but then lost to Bournemouth in the Premier League. Beat Barcelona for a second time in the Champions League, and then a big win against Cardiff, followed by beating Huddersfield in the EFL Cup quarter-final. Lost to Man United and then Tottenham in the Premier League. Beat Stoke in the FA Cup third round. Drew with Man City in the EFL Cup semi-final first leg. Beat Wolves in the Premier League. And a big win against Man City in the EFL Cup semi-final second leg 5-0 at home. Beat Newcastle, FA Cup fourth round. Beat Huddersfield, Southampton, Newcastle in the Premier League. Drew with Benfica in the first round knockout phase, first leg in the Champions League. Beat Southampton, FA Cup fifth round. They won the EFL Cup by beating Arsenal 4-3. Lost to Chelsea in the Premier League. Beat Benfica in the Champions League, leg 2. Went through to the next round. FA Cup, 6th round, beat Luton 5-1, but lost to Arsenal in the Premier League. Drew with Man City at the beginning of an unbeaten run that took them to the end of the season. Big result coming up. They beat Birmingham in the FA Cup semi-final. Then beat Real Madrid away in the quarter-final of the Champions League. Then Everton away in the Premier League. And then Real Madrid again in the Champions League quarter-final. Beat Bournemouth, Brighton and Cardiff in the Premier League. Then met Man United in the Champions League semi-final with a 1-1 away, followed by beating them 3-1 at home to go through to the Champions League final. Beat Tottenham in the Premier League in the final game of the season. Then won the FA Cup. So they've won the EFL Cup and the FA Cup. And then this one. They beat PSG to win the Champions League. It's a cup treble for Liverpool. Let's have a look at the player ratings. Alexander-Arnold 7.41 with Salah 7.40, Matip 7.38 and Van Dijk 7.26. Goals: Salah 23 from 50 with 12 assists. Firminho 22 from 56 Alexander-Arnold, 16 goals, 24 assists from 63 games. And Keita, 15 goals, Mane 13 and Lallana 12. So they didn't win the Premier League, but they won all 3 cup competitions, including the Champions League. I'm sure the Liverpool fans would take that. So that's been tactic number 4. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the videos that will be coming out. I'll be testing the same 4 tactics with all the Premier League teams, just to see how they go. Let me know what you think of the video and the concept, and let me know if you download the tactics yourself. The links are in the description. See how you get on. Thanks again for watching. See you all next time.